Yeah.
But what I find fascinating is so many of us are driving by gas stations, right? We're seeing gas prices at, at these lows that for many of us haven't seen in well over a decade.
Yep.
And so, you're seeing here in the US that oil prices have fallen to below zero. So that means what? That these sellers are having to pay their customers to grab all this unwanted oil. What does that mean for the consumer?
Uh, well, the first thing it means is the low prices that you're seeing in gasoline. Now, oil prices having gone below zero for a short period of time was a very specific problem. There are two problems in the oil market. One is with everybody staying at home in certainly much of the developed world, demand for oil has plummeted, right? That's problem number one. Problem number two is until a few days ago, we had a fight going on because there was so much oil out there that the main producers of oil would not agree to reduce the output. Mainly Saudi Arabia and Russia were involved in this fight where they were just putting out as much oil as possible. Now we've got this broad agreement, Saudi Arabia, Russia, the United States, Canada, Venezuela, everybody's going to produce less oil. And the third problem that caused that perfect storm that caused oil to go into negative prices, think about it like a hot potato. You throw it to somebody else and they throw it back to you and they throw you money to not throw them the potato again. Like nobody wanted the oil because there was
Yeah.
nowhere to put it. There's actually a limit to how much oil we can store. We store it in ships offshore. We store it in oil storage facilities. You'll often see them in a city near an airport, those big round things. So that was that problem. Now, if you take the storage problem away, which probably goes away because we're going to have less oil, you still have very, very low prices for oil in the $20 a barrel range, which results in really low gas prices. A lot of people like that, except we're not driving as much as we used to, so you don't benefit from it as much. But the more important thing is America right now is the world's largest oil producer. So it does actually affect a big part of our economy and jobs when oil is that low. Because if oil's 20, 30, 40, if it's anything less than even $50 a barrel, which it's much less than right now, we lose oil jobs. There are a lot of people, possibly up to 10 million people who are going to lose their jobs.
So you brought it up internationally, but we also saw that in Texas, didn't we? Where there was this debate about slowing down the production of it, and the smaller companies wanted to do that. The larger ones did not. Why is that? Why not just slow down that production?
Well, here's the trick. Whether you're a company or you're a country, oil is your resource, right? It's just nobody ever wants to do the right thing when it comes to oil production. The right thing would be to bring oil production in line with demand. So in normal times, there is just a little more production every day than there is demand globally. If you take all the oil production in the world and all the oil demand in the world, they're almost matched with just a little more production than demand. That's the equilibrium. When people use more oil, the oil producing countries increase their oil production. The United States is 5% of the world's population, but we consume 25% of the world's oil because we drive more than anyone else, right? We drive all our goods by truck across the country. So it has affected oil consumption massively that the United States has been largely shut down. So we are disproportionate in our effect in terms of oil prices, but nobody ever wants to say, this is my bread and butter. Producing oil and selling oil is my bread and butter. I know it's good for the global economy for me to slow it down, but I'm not the global economy. I'm a company, or I'm a state like Texas or North Dakota, or I'm a country like Saudi Arabia.
Mhm.
I get a lot of money out of this.
So what does this mean for poverty, instability, when we look at a global level? The countries you named, right? You've got what, Iraq, you've got Mexico,
Yep.
Venezuela, Nigeria. What does this mean for those countries that depend heavily on exporting this?
Look, this is a massive problem. A number of those countries you mentioned, Venezuela's in a crisis as it stands and can't pay its bills to start with. A lot of other countries like Mexico, Canada, Norway, they can withstand cutting back. So can Saudi Arabia because the price of oil production is really low. The United States, the price of production is high because in Saudi Arabia and in some places in Texas, you drill a hole into the ground and oil comes out, right? That costs probably $10 a barrel. But actually, we now in the United States have fracking, or in Canada, they've got something called the oil sands, where you got to squeeze it out of the ground. You got to use steam and hydrogen to squeeze it out of the ground. So that's called tight oil. There's oil that comes out of the sea. That's tight oil. It's hard to get. Tight means hard to get. Loose means
Right.
easy to get. So for all of these countries that have tight oil, you just can't operate if oil prices are as low as they are. Those people get out of work on top of all the other people who are out of work because of the stay-at-home orders. So it becomes a real problem. For countries like Iran, for instance, most of their foreign money, the money they use to buy anything they need, parts and stuff like that, comes from oil. So there's nobody in the world who doesn't hurt when oil prices are this low. It also, by the way, hurts those of us who think that we need to get off of oil, right? Those of us who are worried about the climate. It was Earth Day this week. When oil prices this low, the impetus to switch to other alternative fuels also tends to be lower.
All right, so then realistically, what about renewables? Like, will this shift? I mean, not that you have a crystal ball, but, given exactly what you just said, I was curious about renewables.
Yeah, so there's two things going on. There's one benefit to what's going on right now in that everybody's thinking about renewables, right? If oil companies are kind of struggling and not producing as much oil, a lot of people are saying, here's our opportunity to think about solar, to think about wind, to think about other kinds of energy. On the other hand, when you go to your gas station and gas is $1 a gallon, you're not thinking about buying a Prius. You're not thinking about a hybrid car. You're not thinking about trading in your 8-cylinder pickup for something else because it's cheap. Low prices are always the enemy because people don't want to change off of something that's cheap. When oil's $4 a gallon, you start thinking about conserving. And then all of a sudden, these alternative energy things look attractive to you. We don't have that at the moment.
All right, let's talk unemployment. It's on everyone's mind. I got to tell you, the biggest question we get every single day at the station is, where's my stimulus check? End of story. That's the number one question we get. Where are we right now with unemployment? What's it looking like for the next month and I don't know, a year out? It's just unbelievable to think we've never seen anything like this.
Never. And I've seen a lot. I mean, I covered the Great Recession. I've covered a lot of things. We've never seen anything like this. Okay, three things. First of all, the stimulus checks, the rebate checks, they call them the economic impact checks, come from the federal government. If you had done everything right and you have direct deposit or your last refund came in direct deposit, you should have it already. If you're getting a paper check, the problem is the government can only print 5 million paper checks a week. So it actually could take them a few months to get the paper checks out. So that's problem number one. Unemployment is done by the states, and that is hard to process. They take time to process. We saw another 4.4 million people who have claimed for unemployment. So we're now above 26 million people who have claimed for unemployment benefits. We don't have the new unemployment numbers yet. We won't get them until the first Friday in May for all of April. Our official unemployment rate in this country, because we measured it at the beginning of April for all of March, was 4.4%. In reality, it's probably 15 or 16% right now and going up. In the recession, the worst we got to was 10%. In the Great Depression, the worst we got to was 24%. And there are some people who think we can exceed that. So it's serious and it's real. The question is, what shape will the recovery take? We're going to recover. There's no problem. We will recover. Stocks will recover. Jobs will recover. But is this a 2-year thing? Is this a 5-year thing? Or is it a 7 or 8-year thing? That's the problem, because even when they lift these stay-at-home orders, will everybody go to places? Going to the beaches in Florida is one thing. Going to the shopping mall is quite another. Going to the movie theater is yet another. Going to casinos, going on a cruise. We're not sure people will bounce back even if the governors say it's time to go back to work. So we have to understand what the new normal is. I'll tell you this. After 9/11, we thought the world was changing and our lifestyle would never be the same again. And what we did is we implemented some security measures and life was okay. It wasn't existential. This is also not existential. It will not destroy us, but there may be new things we do, right? Restaurants may have to seat people differently and bars may not be able to be as crowded, and we will behave differently. It's too early to tell what our behavior will be once we get out of the crisis mode. But we're not going to be able to live off these $1,200 stimulus checks or the slightly extra money on unemployment. There are going to be a lot of people unemployed for a long time, and we've got to think about real solutions to that.
I watched one of your videos about universal basic income. Can you explain that? That was fascinating. I never even thought about it. There are other countries that do this already. Is that right?
Yeah, well, there's some
similar
countries that do similar things, right? One of the things that European countries have is, in many cases, post-secondary education, college and universities are free, and healthcare is free, and childcare is free, and there's maternal leave or paternal leave. So it's not, they don't necessarily give you universal basic income, but they give you a whole bunch of other things that make your life feel more secure. We don't do that. America doesn't have guaranteed paid leave. It doesn't have guaranteed family leave. It doesn't have free college education, and it doesn't have universal health care. So one of the suggestions that's been put out there for a while, Andrew Yang really popularized it, but it's been out there for a long time, is that as we automate our society even more, think about driving, right? In 29 states, driving is the #1 profession. But the minute we automate driving, within 5 or 10 years, that could be the lowest profession. So what if everybody got a minimum amount of money to survive? It's not welfare, it's not unemployment, it's actually a check you get from the government no matter what. And it allows you to redesign your life. So maybe you've got some other skill that's beneficial to society, but you're stuck in this low-wage job and you can't get out of it. It's a concept that's gaining some steam. That we're not talking about a lot of money, by the way. Andrew Yang talked about $1,000 a month per person, $12,000 a year. But what if that freed you up to do something that doesn't pay as much, but now your basic expenses are paid for? I'm not advocating that it's necessarily what we should do. What I'm advocating for is that every time we try and think about change, the excuse is that it's hard and it costs a lot of money. Well, guess what? We're in a world now that's hard and costs a lot of money. So why don't we be big thinkers about it?
Yeah. Okay. It's funny because when you brought up the automation, I was thinking about years ago here in the state of Florida, and it's happened in New York with Easy Pass and so forth, where there was this argument of, hey, we're going to get rid of the toll booth operators. And everyone was thrilled about it. And I thought, well, they're a job
what about the toll booth
that
operator?
are going to disappear. Right. But then you start thinking about, okay, what their packages are for, medical and so forth. And you start counting it up and you're like, I see why this is going to happen. I'm wondering just that. Will supermarkets and other areas of business now go more automated where I don't have to, open a door, interact with a human at all?
Yeah, you've seen it at shopping, at grocery stores, at drugstores where you can check out on your own, these Amazon stores where you do nothing. You take it off the shelf and it bills you. The efficiency is amazing. The automation is amazing. And we all actually like it. When a company invents this, their share prices continue to go up. But we're not thinking about the fact that the toll booth operator and their healthcare package is now an unemployed toll booth operator without a healthcare package. So who pays for that healthcare? And in a time like coronavirus, we actually want people going to check on their health, right? The worry is that there are a whole lot of wage-earning people in America without health care who won't even check if they think they've got coronavirus, because what they don't want to be told is that they need to stay home because they can't afford to do it. It's for our own safety that we start to think about more creative ways to do this. America is the only country in which you could go bankrupt because you get sick, right? No other developed country has that. So again, it's not a political statement. I'm just saying, we all agree we'd love everybody to have health care and we'd love everybody to earn a proper wage, but if we feel that it's difficult to do, we are now going to spend a year doing really difficult things. So let's think more than just about emergency stuff. The emergency stuff are these bills that the House passed. We just passed another one for $458 billion. We passed one for $2.2 trillion. We spent $3 trillion already.
Yeah.
Think about college debt. Think about healthcare, things like that. That's what I'm inviting people to do while we're all stuck in our houses. Read up on some of these things and decide. Maybe you don't like them, but let's at least talk about them.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. Anything else that you think is relevant that I didn't ask you that, our viewers should know about?
No, I just think that the great thing about this is a lot of dour and sad stuff. It is kind of amazing how we're in this together. It is kind of amazing when you look out there and you look at those frontline workers and you look at those doctors and nurses who go in every day, and those paramedics and regular people who were sewing masks. I have to say, for all the sadness around there, our reporting, and I'm sure yours, is showing amazing heroism everywhere you look in America. We can get a little obsessed with our politicians and whether they're doing the right thing or not. I'm kind of finding the heroes everywhere we look.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Thank you again for doing that. And I 100% agree with you. Every night we end our 11 and we have it throughout our 5 and 6 o'clock, all of those kind of stories. And there's no shortage of them.
It's no shortage, and it's great. Yeah. We are actually doing the right thing as a country. I don't know if we're doing the right thing from a policy perspective, but that's a different thing, right? At least we're good.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.